It's time for another Dice Tower review with Z. Garcia.
Hey folks, today we are taking a look at Desert Island. Desert Island here is a highly social game with a little bit of a take that element to it, in which you are stranded on a desert island trying to survive, and you have someone there that you love, you have someone there that you hate, and you sometimes are going to get into fights. You are going to try to gather up goodies, so when you finally get rescued, you can take that back home and score it. This game is a direct sequel to Lifeboat here that you might have heard of, and Lifeboat is a very similar style of game. This one even uses the same characters as Lifeboat, but in this one some things have been streamlined, some things have been changed, and so there's a different vibe to it, and of course now the location is different. You are on the island instead. Let me show you how the game works, and then I'll tell you what I think of this one. Here we go. To set up the game, we are going to lay out the locations here on the island in numerical order. We are going to give every player a character card, and they are going to just put that face up in front of themselves. Then we're going to put these other cards, the marker cards, randomly out in the different locations at the island. Every player is given 4 food, which is these brown cubes. And then we are going to shuffle up the Fate deck and put that somewhere on the table. And we are going to do the same thing with the Scavenger deck right here. We'll put that somewhere on the table. And we are going to shuffle up these Hate cards and these Love cards and give every player 1 of each. The objective of this game is to walk away with the most points, and you are going to be doing that by at the end of the game, when the game's over, when we either get rescued, which means we have sighted a certain number of ships, or everyone is dead. At that point, we are going to score victory points, and you are going to score your own survival value, which is on the cards here, if you have survived. You are going to score if the person you loved has survived, and you are going to score if the person you hated has died, as well as you are going to score for some cards that are straight up victory points. So, you know, you have in here food, and you have weapons, and you have medicine, but some of them in here will be straight up points. And so if you take that, this one, for example, is worth 6 victory points. Even if you're dead, the stuff you had on you goes to your heirs, so you're still scoring. All right? And that is how the game is set up. Let me show you how a round works. The first thing that happens is the Scavenge, which is the player at the number 1 location, the beach, is going to draw enough of these cards to match a number of players, and they are going to 3, 4, 5, 6, there we go, and they are going to keep 1, and they are going to divvy out the rest however they want to, obviously looking at them, okay? And so they are going to just figure out what they want to hang on to. I'll keep that, and then they give the other ones to whoever they want to. They get to pick, all right? That's the first thing. After that, each player takes their player turns, and they are going to draw 2 of these Fate cards, and they are going to look at them, and they are going to choose to do one thing with the one they keep. They can forage, they can signal fire, they could steal food, or they could scavenge, or they could try to switch locations, all right? If you choose to take food, let's say I'm going to keep this monkey card instead of this illness card, all right? So, let me get rid of that. If I choose this card and I choose food, I am going to get as much food as the number indicated on the card. There is a 6 right there. So I would give myself 6 more food. The reason you need food is because at the end of every round, you need to eat as much as your size. And there's a reason for that. That's because the stronger size characters are much stronger when there's a fight, when there's a conflict. But the penalty is they need to eat a lot more. And so you need to eat as much food as your size, or you are going to be wounded. Next up, the player could signal fire, and that you do that by picking one of these tokens up, which is shaped like a little skull. just putting it somewhere in the fate pile there. And at the end of the entire turn, then there's going to be some card flips and possibly a ship will be sighted. And if that happens, then you're going to play one of these ship tokens right there. Once that happens for the 4th time, game is over. I'll show you that in a little more in depth in just a second, okay? And then the last option for you is to attempt to take someone's stuff. You can take a card from them, or you could take food from them, or you can attempt to switch your location with theirs. The way that works is you declare what you're doing. So let's say I am Frenchie here, and I say I would like to be in the first spot because I want to be the one that divvies out the cards. Okay. And so I'm going to declare that I'm doing that. If this player allows me, they can just say, okay, fine, no problem. And we'll switch. That's my turn. They already would have gone, obviously, even though they're here now, so we would just go to the next player that has not acted. If they say, no, I'm not having it, then we fight. And other players can jump in. They declare what side they're on. We can play weapons from our hands and so on. The losing side, once all of that is resolved, and you check your size plus your weapons for that, they're going to be wounded. And if it's the person who was being the aggressive one, then I still get to do the thing I wanted to do. So that's how that works. And then once all of that is done and everybody has taken their turns, and obviously every player here has their own special ability, as well as every location has a special ability, okay? So, like for instance, this one here, which is the jungle, it says that the character at this location needs 3 food less than they would. And so Frenchie right now would only be paying 3 food every time they need to eat at the end of the turn. So every place has its, has its thing. Once that's done, then we get to the lookout phase, in which we see if we spotted any ships. This is kind of the more the strangest part of the game a little bit, just because it's a little bit weird. Once, let's say 3 players did this action, okay? This can be resolved by anybody, by the way. You always add 1, and so we would have 4 of these skulls. And then you are going to draw cards and see what happens, and you are looking at this symbol. This is a ship. So there's a ship out there somewhere that could possibly see us. This is fire. And right there's a fire token. So fire is good. If we get, this is the 3rd, which is also a ship. That doesn't matter. And lastly, wood. That's great. So we have wood, fire, and there's a ship going by. We have been spotted by a ship, and we put one of these out there. If you only get a ship, or only fire, or only wood, or whatever, then nothing happens. However, if you get wood and fire, then you burn down the wood that would have been seen, and so you're clearing all of these things out, and that's bad, basically. So this is pretty random, and it's also, like I said, a little bit fiddly, but that's the way that operates. That, again, is the lookout phase. Lastly, we have the fate part of the game, and this is, as you play these cards, as everybody draws 2 and picks 1, there is a name right here, and you are going to be playing cubes on, or you can do these skulls, on the character listed. In this case, the monkey here says first mate, so even if it's Sir Stephen's turn, they put a token on the first mate, and what this decides is who is the fated character at the end, and they are going to get hit by something bad. It's whatever the first thing was, so monkey, unless something else was more prevalent. So if this boar card, for instance, if 3 of the players played boar, and first mate is the one with most of these fate tokens, then they get hit by that. And then after that, you have to eat, and again, you get wounded if you do not eat. Once that's done, you are going to remove all of these. You are going to play another round. You continue doing this until all the players are found. The players can die if they take enough hits to kill them. That is typically tied. That is always tied to their size. So the smaller characters are worth more if they survive, like Lady Lauren and the kid here. They will score 8 points if they survive, but their size is only 4. And so that is a balancing mechanism. Of course, is also, hopefully, someone out there watching your back, so you can kind of count on that and try not to get into too many fights and try to survive that way. That's pretty much the entire game. Once the ships are found or everybody's dead, count up your points as I showed you at the beginning, and the most points is the winner of the game. I was already a fan of Lifeboat. It wasn't something I was over the moon about, but it was a game I enjoyed, and I had played it several times. It was always a very, highly social. People got into the role-playing of it, and I think Desert Island here streamlines a lot of the actions you can take. It does a few clever things that make it ultimately a better game than the original, like giving every one of the 6 locations a power. The original, in this one, it's good to be first, and it's good to be last. And anywhere in the middle wasn't as interesting. It just didn't matter as much. And in this one, it does matter because every place has its own power, right? And so there's that. But the concept of you hate someone, you love someone is from the original. In this one, they streamline some of those rules a little bit, like what happens if you love or if you get your own love card or you get your own hate card. That was in the original, but in this one they explain it a little bit better. And just the turn flow is a little cleaner in this. So I enjoy it. I think it's a good game if you are okay with games that have that very interactive, kind of in your face interaction, and it's a little bit of take that. And if you think you could get into the role playing of it a little bit, like, you know, you are the Frenchie, so you're going to do the Frenchie thing, yes, and, you know, or you can be Sir Stephen and you are very eloquent and you are very elegant and all of those silly things. This is going to, it's going to help if you do that sort of stuff. The game itself, yes, it still could do with a little bit of streamlining. It's still it feels like a small production still. Like, for example, I'm looking here at the rulebook, and this is what the rulebook looks like, okay? This and this. There's not a single picture in here. There's no, you know, you read the setup, but it don't show you an image. And so it's stuff like that. It seems like, oh, come on, you know, that could have been done better. But it's an improvement on the original, in my opinion. And I think the artwork is still gorgeous. It was always real pretty. So I'm very happy with this one. Again, I would recommend it if you enjoy that style of game, real in-your-face stuff. That is Desert Island. Thumbs up from me.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.